All right, everybody. So thank you for joining us for this Health Law Week event, Mentorship, what works, what doesn't, and where to begin. Please be sure to mute your lines. If you have any questions during the presentation, please drop those into the chat, and we'll be starting momentarily.
Okay, great. May I go ahead and kick us off?
Yes.
Okay, thanks, Colin. Hi, everyone. I'm Jennifer Hutchins, and I practice law in Charlotte, North Carolina. Have been privileged to be a part of AHLA for pretty much my whole career, about 15 years, and have also been blessed to have great mentors, both within AHLA and in my community. And I'll be moderating our panel today. And as Colin said, we are going to stay true to our title and have a real honest and frank conversation about what works, what doesn't, and where to begin with mentorship. We're going to focus within AHLA and then also just generally as you guys develop your careers, whether you're on the mentor or mentee side, I think there's going to be something in for everyone. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We have the true treat to be here with two mentor duos, and you're going to get to hear a little bit more about them. They really are the stars of the show. We've gotten to know them, and you're going to get some really good practical feedback that hopefully you can take away from you back when you're not with your friends at AHLA in your careers. So I am going to start it off newlywed game style. The panelists have agreed to actually spice it up a little bit and introduce each other. And so we've got Michael and Lisa and Anna and Annie, and they have both had mentorships within AHLA. So I am going to kick it over to Michael and Lisa to introduce each other rather than themselves to you guys. And then Anna and Annie will do the same. So Michael, I'll kick it to you.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everybody. This hopefully will be a little bit of fun. Lisa, who is my mentee per se, I've known Lisa for many, many years. She actually started out while she was in college as an intern in my law firm. Her and her twin sister, Mona, yes, it's Mona, Lisa twins. And from there, she decided she wanted to go to law school, and along the way, I gave her some advice, and she kind of convinced us, my firm, to hire her as an attorney, even though she did not go to law school to be a healthcare lawyer. She wanted to be an international lawyer, but we convinced her otherwise. And because of her abilities and her personality, which you will see during this process, she was able to make my life as a mentor for her a lot easier than it would normally be, because she tends to go that extra mile. Lisa?
Well, thank you very much, Michael. That was very, very nice and right on point. So yes, I think that Michael and I have a different dynamic because he is my mentor within AHLA, but also my mentor just within my own community and within the firm. So as Michael mentioned, I started working at Wilentz as an intern back in my college years. And I was then able to continue working at in Michael's practice group. So Michael is, the shareholder and the co-chair of both the corporate law and healthcare practice groups at Wilentz, and has been practicing in that field for over 30 plus years, leading me not only as his mentee, but leading our entire group of healthcare lawyers and corporate lawyers. And he actually started the healthcare practice group. So I remember that when he first told me that he started the healthcare practice group at Wilentz, which is located in Woodbridge, New Jersey, by reviewing a physician employment agreement for one of his friends. I think it was in college or in college that he knew of, some close friend. And then from there, it just snowballed. So I said, wow, well, then this is the guy to kind of sink your teeth in and just hold on to, because apparently he knows exactly what he's doing. And since then, he's just provided me with a great amount of opportunities in the local community here within AHLA. And then just a few funny things about Michael is I learned quickly that Michael has his phone at his side every single second of the day. And he is so attentive to his clients that he responds within seconds. And that's why they love him. And that's why he has been able to grow and expand this practice extraordinarily, because he's very responsive. So that's something that I've learned as well from him. And it's been a great relationship. So that's Michael Schaff.
I love it. That was pretty sanitized. You know, Michael has known Lisa since her, college days. So I'm glad that we kept it above board. I have to give a shout out to Lisa, who I've known through the Young Professionals Council, and I also know Annie through the Young Professionals Council. So shout out to the YPC. Happy to chat more about that separately. But Lisa has just made partner at the firm. So I didn't hear that, Michael, in your introduction, and Lisa's too humble to say it. So we'll give Lisa a round of applause on her recent accomplishments. And no doubt that Michael.
Soon she'll be in charge for our management committee.
No doubt that Michael.
By the way, our managing partner's name is Lisa Gorab with a B.
I remember that. And isn't that why you have an asterisk on your email?
Yes.
And everyone, you know, periodically calls Lisa Gora thinking she's a managing partner.
Yeah, so I'm already being groomed for that role. So it's working out in my favor. So nonetheless, yes, I have an asterisk at the front of my name because not only am I a superstar, and that comes from how Michael has taught me. I also then had to have that distinction between myself and Lisa Gorab, the managing partner. So I wouldn't necessarily get her emails and confidential information.
I love it. Well, good. Well, congratulations, Lisa. And thanks again for being a part of this, Michael and Lisa. Now, Annie and Ahla, you guys go, please. And maybe Annie, you kick us off.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. Good morning. It's actually 6 a.m. here in California. So amazing to any of the guests here who also woke up nice and early to attend our mentoring session. Ahla and I have a really special relationship because I almost feel like we're like sorority sisters or something. I don't even know how she found me on AHLA's mentor site, but that's part of the magic of the mentoring program. For some reason, she found my profile, and we actually have a lot in common in addition to being both in Southern California. I think she's from Southern California originally, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm really impressed by Ahla because she had a lot of experience in the healthcare industry prior to going to law school, which was very impressive for me. She worked at many hospitals and medical groups that I'm familiar with being from Southern California. And now she's working at a big firm, Fox Rothschild. So I'm so proud of her. So she reached out to me early in her career for a lot of advice, just a lot of simple questions, but really areas where you need guidance from a more experienced career in their career. So I just felt that it was a great connection for us too. And it's been really wonderful for me to be on a texting basis with her, which is really great. We feel that there's really no boundaries or barriers when we're chatting with each other. We've gotten to know each other on a personal basis too. So that's been one of the most rewarding parts of our mentoring relationship. So Ahla, would you like to say any words?
Sure. Thank you, Annie. I think that was a great description. I feel like we've gone from like mentor mentee to actually being friends, which has been great. Yeah, we text each other pictures of my nephew and your daughter all the time. But yeah, so Annie is senior compliance counsel at Central Health Plan, where she's been, I think, since 2009. When you graduated from Loyola Law School, super involved in AHLA. I think you are vice chair of multiple groups. I know you're part of the managed care practice group. I think you have a couple more that I'm not familiar with. And yeah, you've been a great mentor, very responsive, probably the most positive person I've ever met. So it's been a great relationship.
I love that. That was actually even sweeter than I anticipated with this newlyweds idea. This was awesome. Well, thank you guys for sharing a little bit. And, you know, these folks, I pulled their bios in advance. And when I saw how all of the credentials, I thought it would be pretty, although spectacular, it would be endless if I kept effusively describing all of their different awards and backgrounds. So I thought it'd be more fun to have them tell it from each other since they've gotten to know each other so personally. So that pivots us, I guess, into some of our remarks that we wanted to run through. And what we're going to do here, and AHLA, let me know if you guys receive any questions in the chat or anything like that. We will try to weave those in through our conversation. But what we've prepared for everyone today is I will be moderating our Q&A, which is really meant to be conversational among our panelists, and they are going to chime in on different ideas. Again, really staying true to our topic, what works and what doesn't. And I think I'd like to, though, start with where to begin. And I think in a couple of the remarks, I think particularly in Anna and Annie, you guys mentioned using the database for AHLA for mentorship to be connected. But I'd like to have both sets of the pairs describe, from your perspective, and particularly focused within the AHLA mentorship program, which I think we all believe has been really transformative for us in our professional practices. And then, of course, if you have any thoughts on general mentorship, please weave those in as well. But at least as far as the AHLA mentorship, where do you suggest folks begin if they're looking to either become a mentor or a mentee within the program? What have you found successful either through your pairs or through friends? Where would you suggest folks begin in beginning and embarking in that relationship?
Jennifer, so I can start there. And actually, I wanted to chip in because I'm not just a mentor, but I'm also a mentee. And I think that's kind of where I've kind of learned from experience and wanted to pay it forward because I had really great relationships being a mentee under the program. It's actually a really neat website. I don't know if any of you have tried online dating before, but it's kind of similar in the sense that you can run a search by your type of interests and location. And I'm sure that Anna will have plenty to say about how she found me, but I also used the site to find a mentor early on in my career. And that was how I found many of the people that have guided me through AHLA as well as through my health law career through some pivotal points. And I'm really thankful for that relationship. Basically, the way you do it is as simple as going onto the mentoring site and just running a search for what you're looking for. For me, I'm in managed care. So I was interested in finding mentors in that industry because it's so hard to find people just off of Google. I'm sure no one wants to do that and locate a stranger. But I was really looking for people I could talk to about where to navigate my career. So I'm sure that was the easiest way to do so because AHLA very nicely, you can stay in your profile, especially if you're a diverse person. You can also seek people who self-identify themselves as being diverse. So that's also a nice way to make a connection there.
Okay, what I think Annie gave a great answer on how you do these things today. Being a little more old school and being involved before they even had a mentorship program here and being a mentor. What I try to do is, as a mentor, I attend a lot of in-person programs, at least when we used to have in-person programs. And what I would do is take a number of younger people out to dinner, say at Fundamentals when I was on the faculty there, and got to meet different people along the way, and got them involved and started introducing people to different situations. And I think that, to me, is always a nice way to do it. If you come to an in-person meeting or you meet people, and most people walk around, they're a little bit nervous because they're new. And what I would do is come in, introduce myself, ask a little bit about them, introduce them to other people. In fact, sometimes people will not call me a mentor, they will call me a tour mentor.
That is hardly true, Michael.
That's because he torments everyone in the way that he forces people to go out there, connect, and meet others. And sometimes that takes people out of their comfort zone. So certainly to have someone like Michael that forces that connection, to have that lunch, to have that dinner. I mean, I've been a part of those lunches. I've been a part of those types of dinners that even other people in Michael's same situation that have been in HLA for a long time, they've continued doing, and likely because they learned it from Michael. There's various people within HLA now that are on the board and have been presidents that will come to me and say, Michael's the one that pushed me to do this. And they loved HLA because of what he taught them about HLA. So outside of what Michael said, though, I think other important things are that if you join AHLA overall, it's very important to just be active and actively engaged and not just essentially a member of a practice group. And so what I have found, I was a YPC. So as a young professional, I joined to be a part of the Young Professionals Council. And a good facet and a great facet of the YPC is that they allow you to be a liaison to another practice group within AHLA. And if that practice group is something that you practice on a daily basis, or it somehow touches your practice in any way, I mean, you really should get involved actively by reaching out to those vice chairs, the chairs of the practice group, meeting them in person at in-person meetings. And nowadays, I mean, holding Zoom calls with them, because those people within the practice group, they really like to have volunteers that are actively looking to do research, write bulletins. So it's really just staying connected and speaking up when the practice groups have their monthly meetings that you could be a part of. So it's really just taking a hold of the opportunities that exist, because everyone within AHLA is looking for people to get connected, and they're always looking to provide opportunities for anyone that's looking. So you just have to show that you're looking.
Yeah, one thing that I try to tell younger people that are new to here is you have to develop your circle of AHLA friends, because things across the country go in different stages. Some parts of the country are a little bit more advanced when it comes to healthcare law. And one of the nice things, if you have your circle of friends and they're in different states and they're around the country, if there's an issue that you have, it may be dealt with differently in a different part. And instead of going to the partner with your, I don't understand this, you call or you email your circle of friends who give you insights into things you may not have done. You can also use them as sounding boards, so you don't sound like an idiot in front of the partner, which is good. My circle of friends from AHLA when I started have all done really, really well. In fact, Cindy Reese is on here. She's a circle of friends for me. Charlene McGinty was the president. Peter Pavarini was the president. A lot of people on the board. And what I would do a lot when I was younger, I would reach out to these people and see what they thought about it, and they would reach out to me, and it became really a good thing where, I would walk into a meeting. Well, unfortunately, I didn't have a healthcare partner in my firm, but I would, when I did it, but I would figure things out. So I'd meet with clients, I would have knowledge. Each one of you can do that. It's a very big advantage.
Yeah, I think I'll say how I found Annie. So I also used the website as well, database. I thought it was really helpful. And you can kind of, like Annie said, you can filter for what you're looking for. So for me as a law student, I looked for someone who was close to home, which my parents are in Southern California. So that's what I looked for. And I wanted to find someone that actually wasn't working in the same setting I would be working with, so that they could give me more of like an objective view and more objective advice when I ask for questions. So I thought it was really interesting that Annie does compliance and she's kind of out of a law firm setting. So that's how I found her. But I do also think like taking advantage of the AHLA resources. I've met a lot of people through like sitting in on webinars and just emailing the presenters after. If there are any law students on the call, that's a really great way to set up informational interviews. And everyone in AHLA is very nice and very willing to talk to you. So don't feel afraid to reach out to anyone.
Yes, I agree. And I think I'd echo what you all said and would make a point that one common thread that I heard through each of your remarks, although, you guys were coming at it at different angles, was really taking initiative, whether you are in the mentor role, seeking to find a mentee, or, Annie, you made the good point that there are many of us that serve as both a mentor and mentee, and their relationships, over years that we treasure. But similarly, as a mentee, I have always found personally for the most successful mentee relationships, whether within AHLA or in my own professional life, that me, seeking those out with real direction and intention has been really crucial. And another thing that I heard was that it seems like all of you have various mentors and mentees. And that's because a lot of times one mentor or one mentee can't really do it all for you. right? You might have someone, Annie, you mentioned, we're looking for professional development in the managed care area. So, but maybe you have other mentors that or mentees that might fill a different aspect. I think you mentioned you're a mother. And so maybe, being a working mother, for example, in the law or something like that. So that brings me to, let's get a little quick and dirty and jump into what doesn't work in mentorship. We have been very rosy on this call, but I think we've all had individual circumstances where we even have participated in a mentorship, formal or informal, where maybe it didn't work out. I'll open us up. I'll start us off by sharing, not within AHLA, but I practice in North Carolina, and within our local county bar, I was assigned a mentor early into my practice. And I did my usual thing, which was being intentional, trying to get times on the calendar to meet up with this person. And we did it a couple times, and there really wasn't a good connection. It just wasn't, at least from my perspective, it wasn't working. I'm gathering from his, it wasn't either, because we never really carried forward the mentorship in the way that I've had other mentorships that have been very successful. And, Anna, like you said, cross the barrier into friendship. And that's just absolutely one of the most rewarding things from a depth perspective in relationships, is when you actually cross that bridge and, feel like your family, right? And so, so what have you found maybe doesn't work in mentorship? Not to bring a downer into the conversation, but to provide practical guidance about maybe what to avoid. I knew Michael would have something on this.
Very
Michael, then
simple.
Lisa.
I've been a mentor or been involved for a long time doing this type of stuff, and it's really someone not putting the effort in. The worst thing when you're a mentor and someone wants to or reaches out to you and all they want is a job offer. Okay, if you're going to get involved in this, even if your intent is to get a job offer, don't make it obvious. Get to know them first, and then deal with it, because that's not what mentorship is. Okay, mentorship is sharing of experiences so that there's personal growth. So it's very, very important to be careful with respect to it. Also, if you make an appointment, keep it. Don't not show up. Okay. Do not, you have to be on top of it. Treat it with respect, which, if you give the respect, you will get the respect back. So.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I see lots of young individuals just reaching out to, heads of certain practice groups at firms, and they make it so obvious, and I'm like cringing when I see that, because that is not what you should be doing. I mean, I'm not in that position. I can't give out jobs like Michael can. It would be great if I could be like, you get a job, but not yet. Maybe when I become managing partner, like Lisa Gorab. But to add to that point, I mean, the whole mentor-mentee failing is a result of someone, yes, not having the right intentions of just saying they want a job, but also sometimes it's just because there isn't a compatibility between the mentee and the mentor. So one time when I was in law school, I did have this mentor that I was assigned with, and he was just the total opposite of me. He was very quiet. He didn't really network himself, so I didn't know why he was a mentor. But you know what? He was outside of my practice area that I was looking to get into. So, and he was a litigator. So the way that he networked, even if he did, was completely different. So it may not be, a failed mentor. I think that had he had some other, say, litigation focused associate as his mentee, it probably would have worked out. But because there wasn't the compatibility, it just wasn't fruitful for me. So you do have to find someone that is within an area, at least like transactionally or litigation. You kind of have to split that up and find someone that has the same characteristics that you're looking for your practice area, but also has the same qualities as you. So both Michael and I are very outgoing and verbose in terms of when we meet people, we like to get to know them, and you ask questions about them and not necessarily just providing information about yourself. You're here to get to know a mentor just as well as they should be getting to know you. So you have to be interested in why they got to where they are, and not just say, well, okay, great, your name is Michael and you're the head of this team, so I'm interested, give me a job.
Yeah, so I think those are really great points. I'm going to cover it from a little bit of a different perspective, having been a mentee myself. I remember early on when I was a law student, I was assigned a mentor through a local bar association. And this person was really nice. They took me out to lunch, which I was very flattered. You know, she worked at a law firm and I was just a student at the time. And we had that one lunch, but after that, it just kind of died off. And I basically never heard from her again. Maybe about 6 years later, she did email me once when she saw my name pop up in the alumni newsletter. So I was a little bit flattered that she remembered me. But then about 4 more years after that, I actually saw her in person at a local bar association event. And I went up to her and I said, hi. And she clearly did not know who I was. So that was the shocking moment about it. I think that maybe, obviously it's a two-way street. I heard Michael say that earlier during our prep call, but that really is the case. It really has to feel like you got a connection with that person and you want to keep engaged in their life. I mean, I think it was nice to me that that mentor remembered me all those years later by name, but just the fact that she didn't recognize me in person was kind of awkward and funny.
Well, you got to be careful now when we all go back to work. No one's going to recognize anyone because we've been away from everyone for so long.
Yeah, so true, especially with the pandemic here, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and we're
Yeah.
only seeing people's heads. So I'm pretty tall in real life IRL. And recently someone was like, oh, I thought you were going to be very short, you know, just because you're seeing people's heads and you develop a sense of, or vice versa, you know. And so anyway, no, I agree. That's interesting, Annie, that, you know, you would think she would remember. Did she have a name tag on? At least she could have resorted to that.
Yeah.
Anna, anything you'd add?
Yeah, so also from the mentee perspective, like everyone said, it's a two-way streak. With my first mentor through the program, it was just like constant scheduling conflicts. Like we just couldn't make time for each other. And so, you know, and that goes both ways. It's like you have to both make it an important relationship to you. So that was a mistake that I made as well as her. So yeah, I think you just want to find someone that is eager and willing to mentor you, but you also want to make sure that you're respecting their time as well and making sure that you're prioritizing the relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of, you know, I think a couple of you have mentioned kind of the fizzle effect. When you have a mentorship, maybe it kicks off well, maybe, you know, it needs that push to get it across the finish line to maybe convert it into more of an active relationship. What are the ways that, you know, I think Anna and Annie, you mentioned you guys have a text chain. You know, obviously it didn't start right away, right? I'm pretty sure you weren't texting photos of each other's family members, but, you know, the text, you know, Michael, you can chime in and bring it back to where you're extremely responsive. And that is very true. Lisa already said it. Yeah. But, you know, so give us some examples of what are some of the ways that you have found either in the beginning stages of getting the mentorship off the ground have been helpful to lay the groundwork of, you know, finding ways to connect, especially in this virtual era that we're in. We aren't seeing each other necessarily at the conferences, going to the dinners yet, hopefully soon. But what are some ways that you found helpful either in the early stage of the relationship? An example I would give is that I have found with some mentors, depending on schedule, you know, Anna, if you can find a time that does work, like, you know, maybe you're on different time zones, but you find a little 30-minute sliver that mutually works. I will like quarterly get something on the calendar that's a recurring event that pops up on both our sides that we've made the commitment to take. And, you know, Michael, like you said, I almost never cancel it because that's, you know, preserved time. So, you know, would love the chance to hear, you know, what tips and tricks you guys have found practically to ways to keep that mentorship spark alive, either in the early stage or as it's progressed.
Yeah. Well, one thing that you have to recognize, and I realize you said you schedule a 30 minutes. It doesn't have to be 30 minutes. 5 minutes is good. You know, hey, how are you? What's going on? What's new? You know, what issues have you had recently? 5 minutes, you can do it. So you can always find 5 minutes. You know, everyone says they're so busy. No one's that busy that they can't find 5 minutes in a week to talk to somebody. So that's super important.
Absolutely.
as a younger mentee, so for example, anyone who's like in law school right now or a recent graduate, I think it's important for the mentee to be the one really taking initiative to schedule time. Because yeah, everyone is busy, but I think, as a law student, just assume that your mentor is going to be busier and take the time to email them periodically and take the initiative to set things up. I think it also just depends on your relationship. Like for Annie and I think, texting is just probably, I know for me, it's like my main form of communication now. And I'm thinking maybe it is for her too. So it just kind of happened naturally. So, find something that works for you naturally. It doesn't have to be, an in-person coffee or like a Zoom call every time you meet up to chat.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with Anna. And actually, I had a really great experience with one of my first AHLA mentors. He actually set aside time, like Jennifer mentioned, like just putting aside a meeting request for a standing meeting on a monthly basis. And to be honest, I looked forward to those like they were therapy sessions. They were so great because I knew, oh, this call's coming up. I can't wait to talk to him. I have all these things I want to vent about that, maybe my husband won't understand or I can't really talk about with my coworkers, and just kind of AHLA related leadership questions. And I would always have like a mental list compiled for my next call, and I really look forward to them. So that was a really great way to ensure that, because both of us had our busy schedules, just to make sure we had time for each other, even if it was just 5 minutes, like Michael says, 5 minutes is quality. Just having that check-in, see how you're doing, kind of how are you feeling, and just it's great to have that time set aside.
Yeah, I agree. I also think that what I found to be helpful when I was in this, mentor-mentee relationship, which I'm still in, and it's never going to end. Unfortunately, Michael and I will never let that go. But for those that don't have a very close mentor, certainly finding that time to call for that 5 minutes. But what I found to be helpful was calling them and saying what you're doing so that they know how active you are being, and they could then provide feedback. So it's really just hopping on a call saying, hey, how are you? I was looking into creating this type of networking event. What do you think, based on your experience, would make this program more successful? Or, hey, I'm trying to reach out to obtain this client, and this is my thoughts of how I can approach this client and successfully get them to retain me, something like that. And there's always much more interesting, creative guidance from the other side because they've been through it. And so, Michael has always been, I always say, Michael, it's crazy how he gets all of his clients, because no matter what, when he has a client meeting, he walks away with something. There's, either it's, an additional matter, or if it's a company that's selling something, like we had a deal with like a cheese company. I was like, Michael is going to walk away with all the cheese that this place owns. And I love cheese. So I'm like, Michael, go and get some of the fancy cheeses. So again, it's just understanding from someone else's perspective how to be creative about what you're trying to obtain or acquire, because that other person will certainly have a creative solution. I mean, more so than you, because you're just kind of this new novice. So that's what I throw out there.
Absolutely. That's a really good point. And I'll pivot us. Actually, we got a question in the chat. So glad that folks are listening to our upbeat conversation this morning. So Chris has asked us in the chat. I hope it's okay, Chris, that I've shouted you out. If you guys look in the chat, you'll see the question. Chris has asked, if we want to develop a mentor-mentee program, what do you think are the most important components to the success? So I'll throw us out. I've been thinking about your question, Chris, while the panelists were chatting. And I want to throw out there the importance of being really intentional about what are the objectives of the mentorship program you're looking to establish. So Lisa, this piggybacks off of a point you just made, and actually I think Annie as well, one you did. If you have, let's say, a very directed goal of, Michael, you said like a 5-minute check-in is good, right? The reason that's good is that there's a purpose to that 5-minute check-in. Lisa might say, Michael, I need 5 minutes of your time to discuss the cheese company pitch. And so let's extrapolate that. So if we're doing a new mentor program, I think from my view, one of the key ways that you're going to have a successful mentor program from the start is if you're really intentional about what are the objectives of that program, right? So, for AHLA, I think all of us agree that this is such a fantastic program because all of us as mentors or mentees within the program, one of the main offshoots of the program is coaching around, advice about AHLA. How can I become, active in the writing or speaking area? How can I become active in a practice group? And so that's the objective. It sounds like all of these relationships have been spun out to something much greater, which is obviously makes your heart sing when you're establishing a mentor program. But one thing I would say, Chris, is that a key to a mentorship program establishment, getting it off the ground, is what are the objectives of the program from a, kind of goals perspective from both the mentor and mentee angle. So I'll kick us off with that, but then turn it over to you guys if you have any feedback on Chris's question.
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in because I currently at our firm, we had a mentor mentee program, and I think understanding how that has worked and people just trying to understand what makes it successful. I've certainly thought about this before, so I just want to share some thoughts from like a very foundational level. I think that it's very important if you're establishing your own program within your organization, is having a plan and having those mentors stay and act in accordance with that plan. So what that means is setting aside at least the minimum of, quarterly meetings with your mentee and putting that down on the calendar, but then also having an agenda whereby tell the mentors, what would be helpful for the mentee. So, having an agenda for each meeting at a minimum so that the mentor, for instance, can kick it off by saying, hey, I want to review your resume. I want to review your list of activities, your goals for a 12-month period as to how you're going to get out there and network yourself. So that at least at the first meeting, the bare minimum to start the conversation at the meeting, whether it's going to be in person or over the phone, is, hey, mentor tells mentee, send me your resume. I could get to know you a little bit. And then he or she can then help fix up the resume and then give other ideas of, networking goals for the year. And then say for the second and third and fourth minimum meetings that have to be set aside, having a topic for each meeting so that there's a guidepost for the mentor and the mentee to touch base on a specific topic. And then obviously once you have those topics, then it really snowballs throughout the meeting itself, because then you get more comfortable, you have a topic to start with, and then the mentee and mentor can start asking questions from there. So for me, it's really knowing that there is a plan and there's a minimum of meetings that you have to have and touch points with your mentor mentee, and giving them ideas of conversation starters.
Yeah, one thing that you should recognize with respect to mentorship, there's different types of mentorship. For example, professional development mentorship, marketing mentorship. It depends what your goals are and what the intent is as to who the right person is. It doesn't have to be someone in your practice area. It depends on what the topic is. Our firm has, for different issues, different types of mentorship. Okay, we have a marketing mentorship program where we take the people who actually know something about marketing as lawyers, and they have a little marketing group with respect to it, but it's a mentorship program. Okay, with respect to AHLA, one of the things you want to do is, if it's in your practice area, that's one thing. It's another thing. To me, what's important, I think, is career development, and I think that's one thing that AHLA, can really help, because it gives you insight as to what opportunities there are within, healthcare, and you can deal with different people. So for example, if right now you are working for a law firm and your goal is to be in-house, talking to someone who works in a law firm as your mentor, it may not be helpful dealing with it. You may want to look for someone who's in-house. So it's very important to understand what your goals are with respect to this mentorship program that you're going to establish.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely, Michael. And actually, hey, Vaughn, good to see you on the chat. This is a great pivot, Michael. You mentioned different types of mentorship. We haven't cracked that egg yet, and Vaughn's got a really insightful question for us. So let's kick that out to the group. Vaughn asks, please discuss the difference between mentorship and sponsorship. First part. And second part of the question is, please tell us what that looks like, that distinction in terms of the AHLA program.
Well,
Michael, not to
yeah,
shout out, not to put you on the spot, but I feel like you have been a true sponsor to Lisa. I hope you would agree.
yeah,
So maybe I'll open it up with that and tell us your sort of
yeah,
thinking on that. And then how have you seen it play out in AHLA?
Yeah, my view is the sponsorship is really getting someone involved in something and get them hopefully towards the top of the list with respect to the issues. Okay, what I've tried to do with the mentors that I've dealt with and people who aren't mentors is to get them active. And once you get active, they, you vouch for them and you get them involved and you make sure they do a good job with respect to the first thing, and that opens doors. So to me, I think that's the difference between a mentor can answer questions and all other things. A sponsor is someone who basically opens doors and creates opportunities.
Yeah, to me, I would agree. They're very similar. They kind of work hand in hand with each other. But to me, mentorship is more like you're listening to the needs of your mentee and you're making recommendations and giving advice based on what they need. As in sponsorship, you're also vouching for the same person, but in a more proactive way. So you're really trying to get them opportunities to advance their career. For example, with AHLA, there's so many opportunities to volunteer for a practice group or affinity group or task force. So hearing about those opportunities, making sure your mentor is at the top of the list for those, and just making sure they've got opportunities there is kind of a more proactive way of mentorship.
Yeah, and I'll echo that. It's really taking a little bit more time to make sure that you're integrating your mentee within the organization and providing those opportunities. I mean, so Michael pretty much was like, Lisa, you can co-author this book, or you can edit this book and this chapter. Let's write this chapter. Let's do this podcast. And I'm like, my head's spinning. This is way too much. But, in the end, it's all worth it, because then through all of those opportunities, I not only was able to be more educated in my practice area, just because you're writing articles and then having to research further into certain case law that's applicable to your practice area, but then also learning other individuals within AHLA by virtue of all those different projects. I got to learn from the marketing side, the staff internally at AHLA, so that now I am very comfortable reaching out to anyone within the staff with a question that I have, and certainly they can assist with a project that I'm working on with my practice group. So really, it's the sponsorship, I think, is when you've achieved a great mentor-mentee relationship, and then you could take it to the next level whereby that person now trusts and finds you competent. I hope Michael finds me competent. And then, you take a hold of those projects and you just do a good job so that you could continue to get other people to trust in you and get other opportunities within AHLA.
And nothing is more rewarding to a mentor than opening a door and someone not only running through the door, but knocking the door over and doing such a great job. That's the rewards, or I guess it's pride. It's almost like a parent. When you see your mentee, publish a book like Lisa recently did on cannabis law, okay? One of the first ones in the country through AHLA. And, what we've done along the way, it's a reward. And that's why people like me do this, is because you feel as though you're contributing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And you're sending the elevator down.
Sure.
And I think that's really important. And, I would say, Vaughn, to kind of like sum that out, that I think the panelists have said that we got a congratulations to Lisa in the chat. I love the positivity. It's awesome. I would say that, mentorship is the base. And it sounds like for all these folks, from that mentorship, there was this, concept of, I really want to stick my neck out for my mentor, my mentee, and give them opportunities that maybe they might not know about, send that elevator down to them, because I think it goes without saying, and Michael, I know you would agree, people have done that for you in your career, and that's where you ended up. And so we all feel as humans this natural instinct to take care of those that are close to us. And so clearly having the bedrock of a strong mentorship is what has led to some sponsorship in some cases. Ahla, would you add anything?
Yeah, I think I think for me, the mentorship is more of like a sounding board, like just having a comfortable space to discuss things that maybe you wouldn't feel comfortable discussing with someone else. Yeah, I mean, again, I would just echo what everyone else said.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Let me take a look quick at the chat, other than the positive congrats and such. Let me throw out another question to the group. What goals have you found helpful to collaborate on together? So we've had some discussions so far about, the mentee being intentional and bringing, their list of objectives, Anna, like you said, then having the mentor react to those. Have you ever had an opportunity where, maybe you've co-authored something together with an AHLA? I know, Lisa, you mentioned that. That was obviously a nice goal. I know Michael and Lisa have spoken together. Anna and Annie would love to hear, has that been a successful way to create the bedrock, having a collective goal? So not just the mentee coming, with objectives where the mentor reacts, but some ways to do something together. Has that been something you guys have found effective? And if so, what are some examples, particularly within your AHLA work?
Anna, I think you should talk about the article.
Sure. Yeah, so Annie always sends me really great opportunities to write for AHLA that I probably wouldn't have been aware of on my own, which is awesome. So I was able to write an article on mentorship a few months ago. Hopefully we'll be getting more involved with writing for AHLA as time goes on. But yeah, I think it's a really great way to work together in a way that you maybe wouldn't otherwise, especially if you and your mentor don't work for the same organization. Yeah. And AHLA gives a lot of great opportunities to do that.
Yeah, and I'll talk about one of my previous experiences with my mentor. He actually noticed my resume, and I was the less experienced attorney that partnered with a more experienced attorney at an AHLA program. That's actually a very popular way to kind of mentor someone into becoming a more experienced speaker, by seeking out someone who may be in a somewhat related field. For me, it was like at the Physicians Law Institute. So he provided kind of the physician perspective, and I provided the health plan perspective. So it's kind of a nice way to bounce that relationship, and also bring me on as a less experienced attorney and give me opportunities to add things to my resume to make me a better, more qualified speaker.
Yeah, I think Annie makes an excellent point. It's important to get people involved with respect to these things. I've had a number of mentors, even official mentees, even official mentees through the program, and I've spoken with them. I've given them opportunities, and some of them take it up and do real well to start, and others need a little more polish. But it's a process, and that's one significant value that these relationships can add.
Yeah, and I'll add to that is, again, if you have to show that you're willing to take a hold of, say, a speaking role or a writing role, because if you don't actively ask or speak about that with your mentor, the mentor may not necessarily provide with that opportunity. But so you should certainly show that interest. And then when you're given that opportunity, certainly just take it. And it may be uncomfortable at first, but that's the only way that you're going to make yourself a better attorney. So even for myself, I mean, Michael has been a very avid speaker at AHLA for a very long time. And so Michael gave me the opportunity to speak alongside of him on many AHLA opportunities, but also locally. And starting out again was always a little uncomfortable, but then I learned his stories. I learned how he pivoted from not just providing the law, but giving practical advice. And a lot of attorneys are not that great at giving the practical advice. They just see the legalese and that's what they provide. But I've now come to learn through Michael's education that most people don't understand the law. Obviously, you have to break it down for them. You have to give them the practical advice. So by talking alongside of Michael on those speaking engagements, you then learn how to craft the education session at those conferences in a more practical basis. You learn where you can throw in stories, and you can only get that from someone that's been doing this for a long time, that already has that very flowing conversation with this, room of participants, which could be, up to 100 people at an AHLA conference. And Michael's just like, oh, it's just me and you. It's so comfortable for him. So you really want to be able to learn that from your mentor or anyone that can provide you with that opportunity.
Right, but just to correct Lisa, they weren't at AHLA opportunities because you don't have two people from the same firm, generally speaking, except in something like this, which Lisa has done with me. But one thing that I did do is for AHLA fundamentals, I started a program dealing with the physician side for fundamentals, and I did it for a number of years, and they wanted to get someone a little younger. So Lisa attended it, and she then started taking it over with one of my co-speakers and stuff. So it became a push down the situation because, my view is the lifeblood of AHLA is the fundamentals program because you get a lot of young people joining, and it's a great opportunity to not only give back, but also to take people from younger people in and give them opportunities to speak more amongst their peers.
Yes.
Well, yeah, and I have to qualify that story because yes, Michael's correct. We couldn't speak together, but Michael was always at the seminars that I was giving then with his colleague. So it was as though all three of us were giving it because Michael would always chime in with some comments. So even though he was in the audience, again, he was there as my mentor, making sure I did a good job. And then thereafter giving me advice as to how to make it better after I finished speaking.
But as Lisa said in the beginning, I like to talk. It's hard to shut me up.
No, but I do think the constant feedback loop is something, right? So, Vaughn, you had asked about sponsorship and we said, sending the elevator down. There's also a feedback loop where when you do send the elevator down as the mentor and the mentee, being receptive to feedback on either end of how, next time maybe you can do better, because then everyone is in a win-win because maybe your mentor will be more likely to send you more opportunities, stick their neck out, and you have, gained some feedback. So I think that's actually a really good point. Lisa, and I will, fundamentals for those, you mentioned, Anna, you've been speaking a bit to like some of the law students and younger lawyers on the line, especially from that voice. I don't know, thumbs up if you guys have been involved with fundamentals. I know Lisa and Michael, like there is a session that they have done in the past on representing physicians, and it's a fantastic program. Cindy, you can let me know, but it sounds like things are going to be guided towards in-person. I saw Cindy give a shout out that the fraud and abuse program will be. Here comes Cindy. Yes. So we can safely say that the fundamentals program will be in person. And I actually helped to put together some of the sessions there and can say firsthand the efforts that are made to have just top caliber, good bedrock lessons on healthcare law. And that is actually where I got my first AHLA mentor. I actually signed right up at fundamentals. There's a little booth. And they had the laptop there to the program that Annie mentioned that links you in and gets you matched sort of in a online dating scenario. And my mentor was Peter Pavarini, that some of you know, and I wouldn't be here knowing about all the wonderful ways that I can contribute to AHLA without Peter. He couldn't be here today, hence my moderator role, I think. But what a privilege it's been to be able to do this with you guys. I want to be mindful of the clock. We've got about 5 minutes left, still keeping an eye on the chat. And so we have one question that's come in. Let me see here from Angela. Hey, Angela, it says, what about your more seasoned professionals who've switched careers? We have focused, Angela mentions a little bit more towards the younger professional cohort. Let's wrap up with some suggestions about how can mentorship, sponsorship be a valuable tool in the toolbox for seasoned professionals who might be changing course in their career?
Yeah, I don't think there's much of a difference, okay? Because a mentor is a mentor is a mentor. And I've actually mentored several people in that situation, and they have the same type of issues. The only difference is they have a different level of experience in the workforce. So typically, and I don't mean this to insult anyone young, they're a little bit more business savvy or business mature. So the questions and the issues are a little bit different. But to me, I don't see much of a difference with respect to it.
Yeah, this is actually interesting you brought this up because last night I hosted a happy hour for my MSCPR practice group, which I'm chair of, and we had someone within the happy hour that he was a doctor for the majority of his career, and now later in his career, probably about 50, he switched over to go to law school, and he is now a JD. He passed the bar, and he's been practicing within his state for a short period of time. So he joined AHLA in hopes of getting that mentor and trying to understand what to do now as an MD, JD individual. So I had actually sent over the name of someone else that I met through AHLA, who's also MD, JD, and who has now been a part of AHLA for some years. So that was a great connection for him, because again, it's now pivoting in a different role, but obviously understanding, like Michael said, the business side a little bit more than, say, a young professional, because he certainly grew his medical practice and now he's just trying to learn how to combine the two. And now, having been given this introduction to the other person that did exactly this, I could only hope that it'll be helpful now in his career.
Yes, I agree. And I would add, for those seasoned professionals on the line that might, be pivoting, a lot of the themes we've discussed today, intentionality about what you're seeking in a mentorship. Certainly if your goal is to understand how to pivot from lawyer to compliance officer, that can be the goal of your mentorship when you make a connection. And so I think a lot of the themes that we've covered today would be generally applicable for sure. So I'm just looking in the chat here, just with about 3 more minutes left, being mindful of timing. So good. Oh, we have someone found this program very beneficial. Thank you. Glad to know. It's hard in this virtual era, to know if we're resonating. So thanks. Okay, so I'm sort of a touchy-feely person, those that know me. So I'm going to leave us with a happy note. I'd love to know something that you have learned from your pair. So going to go full circle back to, getting to the heart of things. I'd love to know, because I think, and Annie, I think you said you've straddled both. And I know for myself, I've got a mentee within my firm. She's a first-year lawyer, and I learned more from her than I think I'm exuding out to her as her mentor. She's just fantastic. So I'd love to know something you've learned from your mentor or mentee pair. So maybe Anna, you want to start us off?
Sure. So I think from Annie, I've just learned not to be afraid to take opportunities and put yourself out there. She's so involved with the program, and she's so outgoing, and she's definitely not afraid to take different opportunities and also to reach out to different people. So that's been a great trait to learn from her.
Yeah, so Anna, I'm totally a big fan. She has been the best mentee, and the reason I believe that is because she takes the initiative to contact me and to get my advice on things, and it really flatters me when I hear her wanting to hear, like, why do you think I should do this, or why do you think this is the best move for me? And just feeling qualified to provide this type of advice is it's the warm fuzzy feeling, right? Because as a mentee myself, I find myself asking the same questions to others. So having someone else ask me the same questions, that's really the best feeling in the world.
Yeah, for me, I always tell people, I go, Michael pretty much took me under his wing and gave me the ability to see what opportunities are out there that I otherwise would not have been able to gotten myself, just because Michael does have so many different connections within AHLA, but then also here locally. So for having him put me under his wing and then open the door for all these different things that he was able to show me, it's just been the greatest relationship, because that's how I am. I want to get out there and I want to network, and he knew that, and that's exactly how he is. And I hopefully took on all of those projects and excelled, and will continue doing that. So Michael, like I tell everyone, has been like the utmost best mentor I can say anyone can have.
Yeah, all I can say is, if you are going to be a mentee, go for it. Don't just go through the motions. Give it your all. The more you put in, the more you get out. And you also have to recognize that when you're doing something and you show you care, that excites your mentor, and the mentor will give you more. So you'll be able to get more out of the relationship.
That's awesome. Yeah, you do get what you put in. I think that has really been reaffirmed by this conversation. Thank you all for joining us. I think I want to be mindful of schedules. We've hit the penalty period now by a minute. So AHLA, I'll kick it over to you if you guys close it out, or if you want me to, I can.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Yes,
you.
thank you
Thank
guys.
you.
Okay. Take care, everyone.
Thank you,
Happy
everybody.
Health Law Week. Okay. Bye-bye.